Oh, thank you. I need that too. I need to change that.
Okay, we lifted that page from there.
So it should be two pages for you to sign. Two documents and two signature pages. Okay. Let's see, move this to gallery Zoom.
Jim, you put the other signature page or something here, yeah?
Yeah.
So I'm just leaving
Don't worry
it
about
there.
So you went above, below, and he went above. I guess it doesn't matter.
Ooh. I didn't matter. Sorry. I didn't think so.
Oops. Okay, welcome. Let's see we have somebody. Quizás es Rosa. Yeah, so did they come or? There you are. Very good. Miriam, right? No, Marion. Marion? Very hippie. It's that Fairfax influence, huh? So people are still sort of straggling in, I guess you might say, to the sala. So give us a minute or two.
Hello.
Oh, wow. Long time no see. Mara, ¿qué tal?
Good. How are you today?
Very good. Yeah. Happy to be here and happy that you guys are here doing, it's not exactly multitasking, it's mixed media. That's what it is. Yeah. Cara a cara, presencial, and then Zoom. So just to give a little, as people are still coming in, to give a little preview of what we're going to talk about, which I'm going to change this board over here.
Tilt it forward. Tilt it forward so that because it's pointing at the ceiling.
Okay. Is it better or still on the ceiling?
Yeah, that's better. Oh, not too much maybe. Yeah.
That's good.
Okay. So I imagine from Zoom, you probably can't see that list very well, but it is the 4 foundations of mindfulness. And we have been talking about the 4 foundations of mindfulness the last few weeks. And now we're on the 4th factor, which is called contemplation of phenomena or contemplation of objects or contemplation of things. Dhamma Nupassana is what it's called in Pali, Dhamma Nupassana. And within this one factor, you can find almost the entire Buddhist teachings. But what it especially gives us is a map. It gives us like stepping stones as to how we can achieve liberation, but let's say some equanimity. And it's sort of the way one of the teachers I follow puts it. It's kind of funny. He says, if you didn't get it from the first 3, right? Because the Buddha says you can actually get liberated from contemplation of the body, you can get liberated from contemplation of feelings, you can get liberation from contemplation of mind. But if that didn't happen, you now have this 4th one, contemplation of phenomena, which has all these roadmaps to help us. And for probably most of us, we're not quite there yet, so we'll take advantage of the roadmaps. So during the meditation, which we're going to start here in a moment, I'm going to introduce what are called the hindrances, the obstáculos, which are one of 5 lists that are within this 4th factor of mindfulness. These are the roadmaps. And the way to think about the hindrances, if you're not familiar, and I know many of you are, it's like, what is getting in the way of the mind settling down? Right? So right now, the obstaculo is this horn outside on the street. Right? But really what the obstaculo is, the hindrances, is my aversion, right, to that sound. Because actually I should be able to get along with any horn. So the 5 hindrances, which I will just tell you briefly. The first one is desire or wanting, right? The second one is not wanting or aversion. The third one is sleepiness, right? Sleep, sloth, and torpor, they call it in kind of old English. The fourth one is restlessness and worry. This is one of my favorites, right? I'm just constantly like this. And then the 5th one is doubt. Doubt, skeptical doubt, they call it. So you've got wanting, not wanting, sleepiness, restlessness, and worry. And so as we proceed to the meditation, I will just kind of put those out there. And our task is to try to calm the mind. We want to see the mind body as it is without thinking and this type of stuff. But if you're unable to, then think of it in terms of these 5 hindrances. What is blocking the way? What is the obstacle? And by doing so, we will be practicing the 4th foundation of mindfulness. Okay, any preguntas, questions, doubts? Which is fine, it's 5th one, of the hindrances. And we get to kind of play with this. It's like, what dissolves the hindrance? Right? We'll see it. Oh yeah, there's doubt. I'm not sure this works. So then we kind of feel into that. We notice it. We label it maybe and see if it doesn't go away. Okay. Okay, I am ready. Are we all ready? So let's first find a comfortable posture. Hold on, time out. My app, there it is. Okay, restart. So, as we usually do, let's find our comfortable posture. One where the back is straight, but not too rigid, not too stiff. We want to try to find a balance between comfortable and alert, awake. And so let's find our body. Create that embodied knowing, that embodied presence that's so important. So much of the time we end up just up in our head. So we want to drop down into the body. So we've been doing body scans to try to establish that mind-body connection. So let's do that. Maybe this time starting at the feet. So find your feet with your attention, with your awareness. And you may notice there's sensation in the feet, probably at the points of contact where the feet are touching the floor, the zabuton, if you have one. So this is really a practice of bare knowing. It's a practice of being aware of what we're aware of. So we're just aware of the sensation in our feet. No story, nothing to add. And moving to the legs, feeling the legs. Feeling the buttocks, the sit bones, probably also the sensation of contact where the sit bones are touching the chair or the cushion. Maybe also a sensation of pressure there from the weight of the body. Moving into the torso, the trunk of the body. Just feeling it. Now the hands, feeling the hands, probably also touching each other or touching the legs. All we have to do is just feel that, experience it. The arms, the shoulders, the neck, the head. In the head, feeling your jaw, and if it's tight, just give it a little wiggle. Relax the jaw. Feeling the face. If the face is tight, teeth are clenched, eyes are squinted, just relax. Maybe you can feel your whole body a little bit now, and maybe not. But so the body can be a very good anchor for your attention. That is, you can rest your attention, your awareness in your body. And then when you notice that your mind has wandered off thinking, you just bring it back to the body, feeling it. Or you can use the breath. So with the breath, we have various options. We can follow the breath at the belly, or at the chest, or at the nostrils. If you're feeling a little nervous or anxious, then I usually recommend feeling it at the belly. And if you're feeling sleepy, it's usually recommended that we follow it at the nostrils, single point. You can also follow it in its entire journey in and out of the body. And thirdly, if your body is just an uncomfortable place for you today, you can use sounds, hearing as an anchor. Just receptively waiting for sounds to come to your ears can be very relaxing. So let's practice some samatha or calming practice using one of the anchors, whatever one works best for you. Trying to center the mind, calm the mind. And if for whatever reason you can't get there, then maybe look, what is blocking your way? What is hindering your progress? What obstacle is present? And see if you can work with it, get it to set aside, move aside. If you're not able to maintain a connection with your object, with your anchor, just noticing, is there wanting in the mind or not wanting, aversion? Or are you feeling sleepy, drowsy, or restless? Or is there doubt in the mind? It's not important how many times we come back to our anchor, just so long as we come back. That is what trains the mind. It's the returning to the anchor. All that is really happening right now is knowing the body mind, knowing the body through the senses, knowing the mind through observation. This is what's happening. And if something is hindering it, is blocking it, then we notice that. We try to work with that, try to let it go, or see if we can get around it somehow. If your mind is a little more centered now, maybe a little more calm, you have two choices. You can stay with the calm and see if you can make the mind even calmer, which would be samadhi practice or even jhana practice. Seeing how calm the mind can be. Or you can watch the comings and goings of phenomena, vipassana, anicca, see the characteristics of all conditioned phenomena. Both are perfectly valid, and in fact, they are our two primary practices, samadhi or vipassana. And either way, the hindrances will work the same. They will come and get in the way of the samadhi, or they'll get in the way of the insight of the vipassana. So we work with them when they arise, when they're in the way, when they are obstaculos. What's in the way of a calmer mind, a more insightful mind? Is it too much wanting, not wanting, sleepiness, worry, doubt? Which one of those or which combination of those is getting in the way? Very good. So regardless of where your mind might be, or where it has been, let's take these final couple moments of our formal practice and return the attention to the body. Infusing the body with attention, filling it with attention, reestablishing that mind-body awareness, that embodied awareness. And then bringing your attention to your heart center, to your chest. I often put my hands there just to know exactly where it is. Just feeling that area. And then taking a moment to thank yourself for your practice, for taking time out in your day today to take care of yourself in this way, to nurture yourself, and by extension to take care of those around you, including even our society. There's probably nothing better we can do than meditate for all beings. And then imagine you could take this goodwill you've just offered yourself and extend it out in all directions, offering it to those people here in Saladana and those people on the call on Zoom or even YouTube, thanking them for their practice, and then extending it out in all directions, as if we could just touch every being with goodwill. And then when you hear the sound of the bell, noticing what arises, physically, mentally. Just watch it come and watch it stay and watch it go. Thank you all very much. I have to say, having a slightly more full room too is very nice. I took a couple peeks during the meditation. It's so nice to see all the serene faces. I wish we had well, yeah, you guys have not a bad view from the Zoom too. Let's get some pretty good shot of the room. So I thought I would continue in this vein, in this topic. And rather than use the board, I think I will go ahead and use share screen. And let's see what I did with, oh, that's interesting. I can even share. Get the YouTube. That's weird. There we go. So I know some people were. How big is that? Is that pretty seeable? Can everybody read that? No. Needs to be bigger, huh?
Mhm.
How do you do that? How do I make it? I mean, I could just like.
You can press Control plus and then zoom your Control plus.
Control plus.
If it's on Mac.
It's a Mac. Here, wait, maybe I'll. How about first I'm just going to go like that. Does that help?
Yeah.
Is that readable?
Yeah.
Am I good? Um, so these are the 5 hindrances, which I think I have them in Spanish as well. I do. And first I'm just going to go through the list because what I think is so beautiful about this is it's actually like a map. It's like a roadmap to lead us to the end of suffering. And these 5 lists build on each other. So the first group, though, is the hindrances, and that's where the Buddha started. These are the things that get in the way. Okay, these are the things that prevent us from moving on down the path. The second group is called the aggregates, the khandhas or skandhas in Sanskrit. And this is how the Buddha described all phenomena, all conditioned phenomena, as being in one of these 5 groups. Physical form, feeling, which is the Vedana, which is the second also of the group of mindfulness. Perception, so how we perceive something. The next one is called mental activity or sankharas, and it's kind of like everything else that goes on in the mind, the beliefs, the interpretations, the intentions, whatever might come up. And then the final thing is consciousness, right? And just to restate this, and I mentioned this briefly in the sit, I think this is such a beautiful way to kind of look at it. Where we're really trying to go is away from any identity of me, of like, I'm doing this, I'm sitting here in Saladana, I'm supposedly like a teacher or I'm teaching. We want to get rid of that because the sense of identity or the identifying is one of the major causes of our suffering, right? Anytime there's a me in there, there's probably some battle going on. We want to get away from that. We want to get into the flow of experience. This is really where we want to end up, right? And the flow of experience happens in the mind-body, right? It happens in the 5 senses, and it happens in the mind. And so it's consciousness knowing experience. It's consciousness, awareness, knowing what happens in the mind-body. So the first 4 have to do with the mind-body, and then there's consciousness, which is also part of the mind. And the mind can know the mind. The mind can know consciousness, right? And if that didn't get you there, so then the Buddha gives us another list. So these are the 6 inner and outer sense bases, of which we are very familiar in the West with the 5 senses, right? We all know about seeing and hearing and smelling and tasting and touching. And then in Buddhism, then there's a 6th door, a 6th sense, which is the knowing of those other 5 and the ability to know yourself. So this is a map, a roadmap to where we want to go, using the senses to get to the place of knowing mind-body, get to the place of knowing experience. Because how else do we experience, right? We experience it through our senses. There really is no other way. And then it's processed by the mind. And the more we can get into the knowing, and of course we're always knowing, but we don't always know we're knowing, right? We're lost in our thoughts, the body's knowing, but we're somewhere else, right? Probably the only time that we really are not conscious of our experiences in deep, deep sleep, right? Even in lighter sleep, when you're dreaming, you're conscious of what's going on, of your experience. So the Buddha is emphasizing the senses, how he breaks them up also in the aggregates, our form and how we perceive these things, and the Vedana and so forth, and that the consciousness is knowing this. This is where when we're in this place, we start to get into the flow of experience, which leads us to the 7 factors of awakening. We start to become mindful. We become aware that we're aware. You can almost say that is what mindfulness is being aware that we are aware, without any grasping, without any aversion, and without any confusion. This is mindfulness. So with these 7 factors of awakening, we start with mindfulness. We can go to investigation. We can go, how do I call the third one? I call it energy. It's often interpreted as resilience or a commitment. There's another word when you won't quit, not quitting. Like we keep on going, right? What's that? Not understanding that word. Perseverance. I like that word very much. Perseverance. So some people translate this third one as perseverance. And then what happens is the mind starts to relax. And then when the mind starts to relax, piti or rapture starts to arise. This is a very pleasurable, it's often translated as joy, alegria, starts to rise just naturally, all by itself, when the mind starts to calm. And the mind starts to calm when there's not hindrances in the way of what? Consciousness, knowing, mind, body. Consciousness, knowing, awareness. Once we get to that place where consciousness is knowing the mind body, or mind is knowing mind body, or we're just knowing mind body, you can just say it that way, knowing mind body, knowing body mind, knowing experience, then this piti, this joy, this rapture starts to arise, which starts to lead to a tranquility, because rapture can be kind of intense, that's why it's called rapture, leads to a tranquility, which leads to a concentration, to samadhi, which leads us to equanimity. And equanimity is what, when we reach full liberation, when we reach nibbana, what we experience is equanimity. That is the experience. In the case of nibbana, though, it is an unconditioned experience, so it remains in our regular lives. It comes and goes, so it's still a contingent thing. It's still a impermanent thing. But the more we practice and the more we can set aside those hindrances, of which, of course, the big hindrance is the thinking mind, right? That's the worst one, is we got to move those guys aside, and then these things start to naturally unfold. And then we get to this equanimous state, which is like a balanced state where we're not pushed around by what happens in the external world so much, right? When there's noise out in the street, we're not like tense and, wishing like me, right? Won't they go away? We're just, it's in the flow. And it doesn't really matter whether it's, good or bad, whether it's pleasant or unpleasant. We just start to flow with it with equanimity. And once we that's really where we want to be for this final thing, which of course is the most important teaching of the Buddha, the Four Noble Truths. That there is suffering, and we see it when we do this practice, this fourth foundation of mindfulness. We see the dukkha, we see the suffering, right? Because we're practicing, and then these hindrances are coming in, and we want them out of there. Now there's dukkha. We're fighting, right? We want things to be different than they are. It's another way of just saying dukkha, suffering. We want things to be different than they are. But we also see how they can go away, and we have periods of calm. Did you guys all notice that brief little period where it was quiet in here? I could even hear the clock. It was so quiet, it was so nice. So we know that there can be an end to this, right? That there's a cause to the suffering, and that's our wanting it to be different, and that there can be a cessation of it, which leads us to the last one, which is the Noble Eightfold Path. So it's all there, right? It's all there in this fourth foundation of mindfulness, and it's like a roadmap as to how we can get there. And we can do this during our practice. We can use these steps to deepen, see things more clearly, achieve that concentration, and they just sort of build. And if you're lucky and you do have a little bit of that piti that arose because you were able to maintain some connection with your object without getting lost in thought, that arises, and then you can use that as your object. You can let go of whatever object you were using, your breath or whatever, and just use the piti as your object. And that when you apply mindfulness to something pleasant like that, and you can stay with it, it increases. And then it gets even more pleasurable until it then gets to the point where then you start to reach tranquility. And then you don't need so much pleasure. It's just, you're just tranquil. It's like, wow, how nice is this? And then from there to concentration. So I'm going to turn this off now so we can see our group on Zoom. And yeah, so is there any questions or anybody? Yes, Josie.
I have a question about hindrances.
Mm-hmm.
Specifically, if I'm using awareness of thought as my, like, what I'm sitting with, I find it confusing to see where, like, so you're saying the thinking mind ultimately causes a lot of the suffering. Like, where's the line between a thought being a thought and a thought causing hindrance, like being the obstacle of, like, is it that if I'm aware of the thought, then that's fine, and as long as once I'm lost in thought, that becomes a hindrance? Like, where's that line?
I mean, I think that's a very good way to put it. Yeah. If we're just noticing the thoughts. So she was asking about when being aware of thoughts becomes a hindrance, and when is it just part of the practice? And yeah, I like that. So we know that thoughts arise, or let's say you're actually thinking about it, because it is kind of interesting that when we're calm, like even tranquil, it's actually not a bad time to think about some of the things we have to do in our life, right? Because we have very clear seeing at that moment. It's probably not such a good time to be thinking about, whether you're going to change your job or, your partner or move or whatever when you're agitated, right? The consequences, the outcome of that is probably not going to be so great. So we can even use this practice to think about our problems in a more clear way. And then we're mindful of our thoughts. We're actually thinking in a mindful way, right? So that's okay. That's wholesome. But if we're here just trying to work with practice and we're trying to deepen our mind-body experience, the knowing of our mind-body, in that case, the thought arises, we notice it, and we just let it pass on. Just like sounds arise, we don't get attached to them, they just come and go. Same with the thoughts. But if you go on a little journey with your thoughts, yeah, now it has become a hindrance and you're no longer really meditating in a way. You're daydreaming.
So it's only kind of really when you do that loop around of getting lost that maybe we should then come back and think about what kind of hindrance that was. Like, it's hard to not get too mindy in
right.
Kind of practice,
Right. And I know you had a similar question when it came to Vedana, right? It was like, how much thinking should we apply to these things? So she's asking, well, I guess saying this to everybody, but especially the people on Zoom, she's asking, after you notice there's the thought, and that you maybe went on a little journey with the thought, how much thinking do you then invest thinking about what you thought about and what kind of hindrance was it and so forth. And I probably don't have the only answer or the best answer on that one, but my thinking is, it's interesting. Less is more. So you want to minimize that as much as possible. And over time, it becomes a little more automatic. And for me, honestly, it took long retreat for me to really get it. Because we all have our favorites too. There's certain hindrances that are more popular in certain people, and others, that are not. And then it also depends on the time of day. It can depend on a lot of factors. But I thought for me, I was just a wanter. What I did is I was just stuck in desire, wanting. But when I went on long retreat, I found out that was not true at all. I am a worrier. Oh my God, I worry about all sorts of stuff. And I didn't really even know that. So I didn't really need to think about it much once that light bulb went off. Oh, I did. Okay, there it is again, worrying mind, restless mind. And it's still probably my number one hindrance is the restless mind. My mind, because, and maybe some of you can relate to this, but it's very interesting when the mind calms down, the habitual mind, right? The habitual mind, the mind that has tendencies, has habits, will think, oh, I got to worry now. This is too calm. And it just automatically will start to worry or start to plan or start to think because that's its habit, right? And these type of habits are also going all the way back to when we were living in caves. Some people lived in caves. Some people still do, actually. These are deeply ingrained habits in our DNA to worry. We are worrying beings, right? We're a very fidgety kind of worrying type of being. And so this happens. And so we get to notice that and we get to play with it. We get to retrain the mind where, okay, let's say we don't think for 30 seconds. Oh, and then the mind really wants to worry. And then over time, we don't think for a minute or 2 minutes. The mind starts to learn, oh, it was okay. I didn't need to worry, right? Everything's fine. And like the stomach, the belly is one good place to do this practice because the belly sends the hara, I guess in Japanese, Carlos, sends a message that all is well, that things are fine. And so then the mind will worry less. So we've got a new person or we're getting bombed by somebody. I don't know, but I'm going to find out. This did happen to me. I'm going to keep an eye on him. If he goes, if those cartoon characters start to take off their clothes or something, you can. That did happen once when the beginning of the COVID. Oh, I was so embarrassed. You weren't on that call, right, Carmen? It was on the Spanish Wednesday call, and people. So English gang, huh? Okay, you look.
Sorry, it's my work Zoom thing. I apologize. I'm trying to change it.
Okay, you're non-threatening now. Okay. See what time it is. Yeah, just a couple more thoughts about this. So first of all, was that helpful? It's so much of this is the habit of the mind. The habit of the mind, and we're working with the habits of the mind to try to get to ultimately that place where it's just knowing mind body, knowing experience. And it's a fairly long journey, depending on how, insistent your mind is. Yes, Nacho.
When I see all this knowledge about how to meditate and the path to meditation and to inner peace and to this higher stage of self, I don't see any of that in my practice of meditation. When I make long retreats and I meditate a lot, usually what I have to sit with is like emotional pain, like emotional pleasures, like this sadness, this loneliness, And it's amazing because thanks to this, I can see it in my body and I can let it go. And when it comes in my daily life, my psychological health, it's so much better because I can identify it and take it into my body and all of that. So for me, it's huge to be able to do all of this. But to be completely honest, those occasions when all this pain can't be felt anymore, I feel a lot of peace, a lot of tranquility. But that's meditation for me. When I hear all this stuff, it's like theory, but it's never happened to me. And it's like I get stuck in the emotional pain, or meditation should be like that for me. I don't know.
So is there like a question or?
Yes, it's a question. Like, am I doing something wrong, or this is normal, or meditation is like that for some people, or I don't know.
Yeah. So first, I'm going to try to repeat to the Zoom class just real quick. So Nacho had a question about how when he meditates, he deals still with a lot of emotional pain. There's a lot of emotional pain still in his body, and he's wondering whether, I guess, that it will pass at some point, but it hasn't so far, and he's wondering whether he's doing something wrong, or whether it's just the way it is. Did I get that about right?
Yes, perfect. Thank you.
And so I would say that yes, it is probably where you are right now, and it is exactly as it should be right now. I also went through years of emotional pain, and a lot of, outside work outside of meditation. And in fact, even one meditation teacher very kindly in a retreat, she said to me that for trauma, sometimes mindfulness is not enough. You need other things. Eventually, what else I was hearing though from you, Nacho, is that you are very mindful of your pain. And so you're able to be with it without maybe curling up in a ball or something. So, maybe you're there. You're now at the beginning because mindfulness has incredible healing qualities. But if it's like on a 9 on a scale of 1 to 10, if it's 9 or 8, then you probably need some other stuff. But then it gets to the point where mindfulness can be enough. And so, yeah, you just keep sitting with the pain, feeling it, experiencing it, crying if you need to. I think it was Ajahn Chah said, if you don't cry when you meditate, you haven't meditated. Right? I mean, we're missing a big part of our life if we're sitting and we're not crying sometimes, because everybody has pain, of some kind or another. So it sounds pretty good. I mean, if you're telling me you can't even sit with yourself, then maybe we need to do like an intervention or something. But no, it sounds like you're doing great, actually. And it takes time. It took me, at least 5 years, I think, before I wouldn't cry at every session. I remember when I first started, it was just like streaming down my eyes. It was kind of crazy. Thank God everybody had their eyes shut, And there'd be like a little pool in front of me. It was quite ridiculous. And you could hear them plop. And then you'd be in a quiet room, and be like 100 people, and they'd plop. So, yeah. And it's a lot of it's a brahate, right? Or the pain. We really want to embrace it. We do not want to push it away. That will cause it to persist.
Can I add something?
Yes, Martina, please.
I would just like to share maybe what's helpful for me when I go through a period of especially difficult meditations, or for whatever reason. Sometimes meditation is hard. I switch to metta. That's a very good suggestion.
Yeah.
And do metta for yourself, but do metta for other people, because when I notice that when I'm in emotional pain, it's easy to drop into, very self-centered view of the world. Everything is just like me and my pain and my problems and my, my stuff. And then it's really helpful for me to turn outwards and start wishing well to other people and just forget about myself for a minute. And it's really helpful. So just something maybe that you want to try out.
Yeah, in case you didn't hear that was a very good suggestion. Martina had said that when she's enduring pain and getting, maybe self-centered or whatever, she goes to metta. So she stops or starts doing metta practice, and especially to other people. and just to kind of get out of herself for a while and stuff. And that is a very good suggestion, a very common suggestion as well. Yeah. I admit I don't do a lot of metta. I probably should do more. But some people, it's cats me out. They love it. So let's see. I think we're getting close to the last couple minutes. Is there anybody else who? Now I will, and if you have a question, go ahead and raise your hand. But I do want to say that there are chapters on how to deal with the hindrances, right? There's chapters on maybe just how to deal with the first one and ways to work with them and so forth. So I thought maybe next week we'll dig a little deeper into the hindrances and talk a little bit more about that, and then talk a little bit more about the other 4 lists, especially the 7 factors of awakening. Yes.
Quick thing. In that sit this evening, I think I managed to clock up all 5 hindrances.
Very good. You get an A.
Just mainly because I'm terribly tired. So I kind of,
Yeah.
and then it was when I was snapping out of it, I was like, okay, hang on to this and push the tiredness away. So if you spend a lot of your time or a lot of your meditation time is spent on managing the hindrances, how much work and how much does it take, say, something like a long retreat in order to be able to manage those quicker and then proceed further down the roadmap?
Yeah. So Damien mentioned that in the meditation, he experienced this one, 30 minutes, he experienced all 5 of the hindrances. So that's very good. He gets a 100% score. And then he's asking on retreat, how long do you need to keep working with them before they start to fall away? And they do fall away fairly rapidly. I mean, you already have great mindfulness. That's the first step, is being aware of them. So you've already got the first step down. And then over, I mean, it depends on the person, of course. But literally in 3-4 days, you will start to get some momentum where the hindrance won't be blocking your way so much. And what also happens is they may come, but they're weaker. They're not like a wall, brick wall, they start to become more like a picket fence, and they loosen up a little bit. And like when you're tired, then they're going to be more inclined to come up, including the sloth and torpor one. But yeah, probably 2 to 7 days. But I would say normally in that 3 to 4, you start to see a big difference. Well, good. If there's no other questions, maybe we'll do a little metta. I think I'll just have Martina lead it for us. If you want to lead, or I'll do. Which, by the way, Martina will be here on Wednesday, and she's going to be on Zoom using, I guess, your personal, but it's on the meetup group.
Yes.
Yeah. So if you want to attend a group on Wednesday, also, it'll be in Spanish at 8 o'clock Madrid time. Martina will be leading the group. Okay, good. So yeah, we'll do a little metta. This is a practice that we can often do towards specific parts of ourself, such as pain, such as our inner child, such as our inner teenager. Whoever might be suffering, we can offer metta to that part of ourself, that aspect. Anyway, we'll start with I. And for those of you who are new to metta, these are using phrases of goodwill that we send to ourselves and to others. May I be happy. So you can say these phrases to yourself. May I be happy. May I be well. May I be safe. May I live with ease. And for the second group, why don't we do our Sangha here in Saladana and on Zoom, YouTube, and those who couldn't make it today. So let's use we. May we be happy. May we be well. May we be safe. May we live with ease. And now let's try a difficult person, a difficult being. So bring to mind somebody where you have maybe a little resentment, maybe they did or didn't do something, said or didn't say something that hurt your feelings. Imagine them right in front of you and see if you can offer them goodwill. May you be happy. May you be well. May you be safe. And may you live with ease. And lastly, all beings in all directions without exception. May all beings be happy. May all beings be safe. May all beings be well. May all beings live with ease. And lastly, to end our session this Sunday, let's dedicate, share the fruit of our time together, letting it go in the spirit of renunciation and dana. So offering it up to the benefit of all beings, and this would be the teachings, our Sangha, our Buddha nature. May all beings be happy and peaceful, healthy and strong, safe and protected. May all beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering, free from war and violence, discrimination, racism, and free from coronavirus. And may all beings find their path, find their roadmap, find their stepping stones to the end of suffering. May all beings be free. Thank you again. Very nice to be here and such an honor and pleasure to lead this group. Just a couple quick announcements. First, just about dana or generosity. As most of you know, we practice and try to cultivate generosity here at Saladana, so none of our sessions have a charge. They're all freely given. And the participants can also practice dana. And one way is you can help us clean up, which during COVID, we're just having everybody, just touch their own material and put it back as is being demonstrated over on that wall. And then you could also leave a financial donation if you are willing. And there are two boxes in the hallway or the vestibule, the entryway. When I'm here, I just the Saladana box, okay? So it goes to the expenses, the gastos of Saladana. But when other teachers are here, many of them do live on the donations. And so you could give generously to the teacher box. But for me, I don't need it, so thank you. And in terms of the schedule, so this Wednesday, we have Martina at 8 o'clock Madrid time. And then I'll be here Thursday at 8 o'clock. And I'm also thinking about doing probably will this Saturday, a concentration workshop of a couple hours, starting probably about 10:30 Saturday morning. I was hoping that Nagasvara could do it, but he left to Sweden. So I will try to do it. But yeah, look on Meetup for that. And yeah, any announcements from anybody? No? Okay, well, thank you so very much. Do you guys on Zoom, do you want to be in a little group? There's, I think, 4 of you for while we clean up, or I'll put you in a little group. If you're not there, then you're not there. So good to see you.